What's up, everyone? Welcome back to the channel. In this video I'm just going to be going over how I've been playing Tyrannical this week as Affliction. So I'm just going to go through our talents and soulbinds real quick. So our setup is the same as I've been doing on Fortified weeks. So Drain Soul, Writhe and Agony, Dark Pact, Sow the Seeds, Haunt, and Dark Soul. And the reason why I'm going for this build is the difference between Writhe and Siphon alone on single target isn't that substantial after the Rapture nerf. So throughout the dungeon, you're getting a lot more value on Writhe than you would be with Siphon Life. Because if you're running Siphon Life, you're generally only using it on the really big targets in a pull, and you're using it on bosses. Whereas on Agony in general, you're agonying almost all the mobs that you're pulling, right? Throughout the entire dungeon. And it does pretty good damage on single target. And we're still running Sow the Seeds just because the AoE is really, really strong. And with this week's affixes, which happen to be Sanguine and Storming, you can pull pretty large and not have any real consequences. I mean, so long as all the mobs die relatively even, Sanguine shouldn't really be an issue. So you're still getting that massive value out of AoE, and your single target is okay. Using Haunt for the extra single target, and Dark Soul obviously is just the best in a row. So moving on to soulbinds. You could actually use Naya here this week. Naya would give you a little bit extra damage on single target if you were to want to kind of swap to that. But I am still personally running Dreamweaver, and the conduits I'm running will be Withering Bolt for the extra drain soul damage. I'm also running Roll in Agony for the extra agony duration, and I'm also running Soul Eater. And kind of the trick on how to do really good single target on Tyrannical weeks, even with this AoE centric build, is having really high drain uptime. So while Rapture is a lot of our damage, you kind of want to, so say you're pulling the boss here, you're popping your cooldowns. You want to dump all your shards in your window, in your soul rot window, just as you normally would. And so as shards are coming, and my soul rod is still up, as you can see here, I'll be dumping shards until my soul rod is gone. So now my soul rod's gone, I'm refreshing my dots, and now I am just draining. And I'm just draining the entire time until my soul rot comes back up, or I am capping on shards. So pretty much I'm just full on just draining, refreshing dots. And I know this plays down does seem a little bit boring, but it really affects how much damage you're going to be doing on single target, right? So here, I'm about to shard cap, pop a shard, just so I don't shard cap. And then I'm waiting for the next shard, boom, pop another one. And you can see my soul rot is coming up in 3 seconds, right? So now I'm setting up for my next soul rot window, and dropping all my shards. And then I'm just draining the entire time and just repeating that. And even on Tyrannical, fights shouldn't be too long, maybe 2 to 3 minutes. Some specific fights may be a little bit longer, but really maximizing your drain uptime is how you're going to get a lot of value out of Withering Bolt. So damage here doesn't really matter too much because I'm running the wrong conduits, but it should regardless look something like this. UA, Agony, and Rapture will all be kind of your top damage. Drain Soul, you're aiming for like 45-ish to 50% uptime on. In dungeons, bosses generally don't have a lot of moving mechanics, so you should be able to get a really, really high drain uptime and have it be anywhere between 10 to 13% of your damage, right? So that's kind of like the goal here on how to do it. I'll show you a clip from this week where I did an 18 Spires. And so going into this boss, we're going to have Lust. I have 5 shards. But I don't have Necrotic Wound yet. I just have Champion's Brand and I think the Interrupt buff for Anima Power, so not too much power here. So going through, pop my soul rot and my cooldowns, dump all my shards, just as I was just talking about. And I'm just continuing to pump all my shards while my soul rot is up. So for the next 5 or 6 seconds, dump the last one. And now I'm just draining. You can see me just draining away and refreshing dots. So our mage dies here, unfortunately. I res him. So when you're doing dungeons, I'm personally always taking necrotic wound for the extra single target. It really does just help. So that is just what I've been doing, and you'll kind of see like my damage here is pretty good just from, pretty much base. They don't have too much to really enhance it. A couple extra mastery from the Champions brand, but here I made a mistake and I dumped my shards before my soul rot. I'm not sure why I did that, but also didn't see that. My brain just shut off for like 10 seconds there, I guess. But yeah, generally you want to save your soul rot for your raptures. Here we go, the boss is kind of finishing. And especially once you get to 20% and lower, you really want to make sure your drain uptime is high, because drain gets an extra 100% damage when the target is below 20%. So you're getting a lot more extra value just from draining when the boss gets lower and lower. So pop the soul rot, dump the rest of my shards here, and then I'm just refreshing my dot and draining the boss until he dies. So I'm sitting about like 6.6, 6.5-ish on that boss, which is pretty good regardless. Like I said, we're AoE build. We only had 1 real damage anima power. So I'm going to show us another clip here. This is one with the necrotic wound, and the numbers are a little bit higher than they would be because this boss has an extra damage phase. But I'm basically just draining the entire time and dumping 1 or 2 shards when I get close to cap. And I'm just saving my cooldowns for that extra damage phase. So I got close to cap there, and then I'm just draining. And you can see, like, right now I'm doing no damage, right? I'm literally just dots and draining the boss and rapturing once or twice just to keep my cap, keep myself from being soul shard capped. But trying to maximize my drain uptime here. And the boss should be getting close to the point where he's taking extra damage. Also, this dot really hurts on an 18 Tyrannical. I was getting chunked through Dark Pack and wall. So I'm just refreshing dots and draining, and I'm just waiting really close patiently for this extra damage to come in. So there he is. He uses all his mana. Pop my soul rot, my ruby, dark soul, and then I just pump the boss, right? So same concept. I'm just draining, and as my shards come up, I'm spending them as my soul rot stays up. So I quite literally doubled my damage just from doing that, and just patiently waiting when to use my cooldown. If you are doing like maybe a 20 or higher, you might be able to pop your cooldown to the start, and they could potentially be up in time for when the boss goes into the extra damage phase, depending on your group DPS. But in general, I generally save my cooldowns just for that phase. And so here, the boss is getting below 20%, so we're going to be doing extra damage to him when we're draining. And you can see I'm just maximizing my drain uptime. I don't care how many shards I have. I'm just kind of draining. My soul rot's coming up here. So I pop my soul rot, dump my 4 shards. The end had to do a lot of movement here, but you get the point. Maximizing drain is really important, and it's a significant amount of your damage. If you look at your log from after you do every boss, so think after this boss, I probably would have like 40-ish% uptime or so. But it's definitely important to check and see after you do a boss potentially and see like what was my drain uptime. Was it high or was it like 30%? Was I moving too much or refreshing my dots too much? Because that could be like a really common mistake is, if your dot has like 10 seconds left on it, instead of draining, you're just refreshing your dot, right? So drain is a significant amount of our damage right now, especially in keys when we are running this type of build and Withering Bolt. So it's really important to just maximize that damage. So hopefully this is helpful for everyone. Hopefully you have a good week in keys, and I'll see you in the next one.